Hello, hockey world. Happy first day of summer.
For some of us it is, but no.
It's Friday, July. It's Friday.
No, it's not.
Nah.
Thursday. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what day it is. The draft is tomorrow.
I'm Michael Agello, live from my room in Dallas.
I'm Peter Tesse, live from steamy hot Winnipeg.
Listen, I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology, and it'll be 99 today in Dallas, Peter.
Yeah.
And I'm Eklund, and I'm on the grassy knoll. And you're watching the HockeyBuzzcast on HockeyBuzz.com. I'm not. I'm back home because there is no way in hell I could. We have a HockeyBuzz divide and conquer. We have a divide and conquer.
Can I just insert this for 1 second? Because as I'm driving into the airport yesterday,
yes.
I'm driving through Dallas and coming off the highway, and I see in the corner of my eye, and I turn around, and it was Elm Street and Houston Street. It was the book depository, and it's smack dab in the middle of the city where you don't even notice it. So when I go to walk around, it's going to be like a 20-minute walk because it's just like a city block. It's not.
That's going to be overwhelmingly awesome. You know.
Yeah, I can't wait.
It really is. I mean, for a history guy like you, that's just got to be incredible. I mean,
yeah. I
mean, you really are. Sorry, I'm eating pizza bagels. This is what happens when we get to this point in time, and I start eating my children's food. Yeah, I mean, when I first went there, I was just it's amazing how much smaller everything is than you picture it. You know?
So in his house, the Gerber baby food was gone.
Yeah, no, I mean, if I had small children, I'm eating that. I mean, when things get crazy. I mean, anyway. Let's talk about hockey because we have very little show today.
I haven't had bagels since like 4th grade.
Really? Oh, they're delicious.
Who eats that?
They're delicious. They're happiness in a bite. Anyway, all right. So, all right, I'm going to try to breathe. I've been absolutely insane. I've been up since 4:30. I'm updating things. There's a big blog coming right after this show. The show's going to be very short. This trade deadline / draft is as crazy as anything I've ever been around. We're gonna have an unbelievable few days here. So what we're doing is I'm staying in my office. I'm actually going to another place that's going to be an office because I'm totally isolating myself. And Mike and Russ, of course, are in at the draft, and Mike for Hockey Buzz, Russ because he's a friggin' celebrity at the draft. Are you drinking is that a beer you're drinking already, Russ?
No, but actually, this is a.
It looks impressive.
And look what it says. It's the champagne of teas. They stole that from.
Republic of Tea. I remember when the Republic of Tea took over in a bloody coup back in the '60s. That was crazy.
They overthrew Lipton.
They did. So let's talk about the draft to start with, because you guys are there. What do you think? I mean, Russ, you've been to how many drafts now? This is probably too many. Did you say?
No, since 2001.
Oh, since 2001. Okay, all right. Did you get a sense of anything different with this one?
I get the sense that we may see a lot of trades, and that's something that we haven't seen that much of in at least 3 drafts or something. Like I think there could be 3 or 4 big trades. That's what I think.
Yeah, I mean, and I know it's great. I know that's like the sideline thing because you're really just following the prospects, and so that's the sideshow, which throws monkey wrenches into your thing because you're figuring this team's going to pick, this team's going to not pick. So if everything was, if no one were to make any trades at all, are you hearing anything new about teams interested in certain players or anything like that?
I do. There seems to be a lot of RFA shopping, right? I think.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
The shopping Hayes and the Mestikov. I think, I do think the Flyers are shopping Simmons, but I don't know if they're going to actually pull the trigger on anything.
How is my audio?
Much worse.
A little muddy.
It was much better before.
Yeah,
It's much better before. Okay.
Yeah, whatever you did there made it sound like you were in a can.
Better.
That's better. That's fine.
No, the interesting thing is, and Russ will probably confirm this, it doesn't sound like there's any chance of any movement in the top 2. It's going to be Dahlin. It's going to be Svechnikov by Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
There's some debate whether The fun, quote, the fun will start at 3 with Montreal or 4 with Ottawa. Montreal yesterday, apparently in Dallas, invited both Zadina and Svechnikov to their pre-draft dinner.
Mhm.
And then they met with Tkachuk in Buffalo, apparently, or someplace a couple days ago. So I get the feeling that what Bergevin is doing is he's trying to convince everybody below them who might have interest in one of these three that that they're undecided on who they want to pick, and maybe they'd be open to moving down, but they're tantalizing those teams with the possibility of picking somebody when everybody seems to think they want to move down a few picks and take Kotkaniemi. And maybe that works and they get an extra draft pick or two, or maybe they just take Kotkaniemi at 3, or they take a defenseman or something. But Montreal's trying to play the game right now.
Peter, are Montreal's fans just curled up in a corner in a ball crying about the possibility of this happening? Like, I mean, can Montreal they finally have a season terrible enough to pick 3rd overall, which is like an unbelievable. I mean, the Canadians in the history of time have picked in the top 5 how many times? I mean, it's unbelievable. Think about it.
So I have a very good friend who's a very passionate Habs fan who lives in Montreal, an industry friend of mine. And I always sort of say, I'll send Ted a text and I say, what's the barometer out there? Like, I see the media stuff, I sort of see what's on TV a little bit, but what are you guys talking about when you're sitting around the water cooler? And he goes, there's tons of hope, and there's people who want to believe, but there's this sort of underlying concern that no one really knows what's going on, and no one trusts what's the decisions being made. And he goes, you have a ardent and passionate fan base, and there's always ones who are going to find a positive in it. But those people with the outgoing sort of positivity are fewer to find. Yeah. Now, Russ is going to love this because I have to do this to him. A very good friend of mine in Winnipeg is childhood friends with Jeff Molson.
Of course.
Sorry, right? I just and so whenever something happens, I see Matt sends me a copy of his text message that he sends to Jeff. And Jeff says, and this is the response, and I'm not doing anything offside here. Jeff's like, hey, I'm hands off with this. This is up to the guys who run the team. Like, that's literally how he looks at things. And Jeff's a pretty public figure.
But that's
he has his inputs, but he's not micromanaging things at all.
And I think
he gets a lot of heat
about that. Canadian fans should be happy about that. I think that's a good thing.
Here's what I could tell you about Montreal. Like, there's definitely some question about what they'll do. Inviting Svechnikov to me means nothing because he's not going to be there. So who cares? That doesn't mean anything to me. I think I've heard that they do like Tkachuk, and we do hear about the Kotkaniemi stuff. It's hard to say if that's a smokescreen or not, but I do think it's a possibility they do take him at 3 because of the need. I can't rule it out.
Right. It makes sense.
We have to rename this segment of the show the 6 Degrees of Peter Tessier segment.
and the name dropping, which I like, like just dropping names.
Yeah. Now we'll
talk more.
Absolutely. No, but I think so. All right. So we've got, if I'm Montreal, I'm like sitting there and I'm saying, okay, I know you need, I know what you need. I know your need, but don't screw around with this too much. I mean, or overthink it necessarily. They need a lot. I mean,
that might be what's part of it. If they think they need a lot, they may want to get more draft picks. They may want to move down a little bit, get the guy they actually want.
But they don't need a lot of draft picks. Montreal needs to do something major on the UFA market. They need a really stud player here. Like that, in my opinion, they can't rebuild through the draft in Montreal. It's just not going to happen.
There's what
Montreal should do is they should take a lesson from George McPhee's playbook. And given the amount of RFAs around right now, and Russ, you just mentioned this in the beginning of what you feel is going to happen. There's a lot of RFAs that could be traded. Get the guys who can't fit into their existing team's plans right now. And yes, draft your best player available at number 3. And then start shopping for the other guys and fill in some things. So yeah, don't go big game hunting and hope you're going. And remember, hope is not a plan. Hope you find that guy, overpay for him for your number one center or make a crazy deal to try and fix everything by getting this true stud center. You're not going to land it this year. That guy doesn't exist on the trade market right now unless someone's doing something crazy. So,
but Peter, that's the problem is that Bergevin's on a short leash, and he knows it. And I think he's acting like a desperate general manager, and he's going to make a big mistake. And I'm not saying with the draft pick, he may very well, like if he takes Brady Tkachuk at number 3, I think that's a no lose for him because I think Brady Tkachuk.
That's what I'm saying. That's your move. That's your move.
But
take the guy.
But if he's out there saying I need to get a number 1 center, he could go out there in free agency and sign Paul Stastny for 5 years and $40 million because they got the cap space, and that would be the worst thing for that team to do because he's not a number 1 center anymore. He's still a good player, but he's not a number 1 center anymore. But that's the type of move that the rabid Montreal fan base wants, is them to hit a home run.
There was something interesting.
You got to resist that.
Yeah. There was something interesting, and I'm going to get back to rest, but there's something interesting here that came out yesterday, which was of all the things that have happened with John Tavares, it was leaked through Montreal. Okay, and I usually don't talk about where these things leaked, but it was leaked through Montreal, and I said it because other people said it too, that they were not in on Tavares. Now that doesn't mean anything necessarily, but it is a strange thing for them to say because, I'm sure they got tired of answering the question, but them not being in on Tavares implies that they are thinking about something else. Like to the Montreal fans are like, okay, there's something else. What do you think, Russ?
I think JT probably told Pat Brisson, I don't want to play there. And that's why it probably got leaked. I think that's
right. So they put it out instead that we're not interested in him before the.
I heard an interesting theory on that, and I have to credit Andrew Berkshire from Sportsnet regarding this. Who is John Tavares' best friend from his days in junior?
Yeah, he's a good guy.
That would be PK Subban. And if you want somebody to give you the dirt or to give you the negative in terms of being in Montreal, it's one PK Subban. Not the city of Montreal, not the fans, but the organization. So I bet you if there was even a twinkling, even a little bit of something in his head to say, oh, I might go to Montreal, PK probably would have called him up and said, think again.
And if you want to connect the dots, the Tavares name keeps coming up with Nashville. That's another way to do it too.
Honestly, I put some credibility into that. I mean,
I don't, but I think that there have been. I mean, don't put credibility. There are players, say things, to each other, and I think I think this is one of this is. I think this is and PK is says things to a lot of people. So and I think that he'll say it. I'd love to get Tavares to say it. So he's talking to
players stuff like that.
Yeah, all the time. And I think that it's very easy that he's talking to some not Frank Seravalli, but some Frank Seravalli-ish type person up in Canada, and he's talking to them, and he says, oh, I'm best friends with John Tavares, and that's how these things go, boom, like they go through, and that's all it has to be said, and it's fine, but all right, so let's think about.
I think it would be a mistake to try and trade down and get more picks.
Yeah.
I think make the pick that you need to make and make it. That's it.
Well,
I couldn't agree more. And I think that's what you have to do in this situation. Learn from the Maple Leafs that a good young American can help your team, and go out and get Tkachuk and make this.
But learn that you can get undervalued players. Like go and pull up.
There are plenty
RFA centers right now and then look at who's a possibility of enticing a deal. Learn from what Vegas did. In that you can take these guys and you can find places for them and give them opportunities.
But Peter, the problem is that if it's an RFA and they have to trade for that RFA, the Montreal organization is not that deep in terms of prospects any longer. I mean, you got Noah Juleson, who's a possible NHL defenseman. You got Victor Mete, who played last year. There are a couple others, but it's not a deep pool. They really don't have the assets other than future draft picks.
They've got some draft picks, but they've got some defense. Whenever we were talking about this the other day, and there's
and Josh Brook, those are two good prospects too.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, this is the thing. I mean, we have to understand that the Vegas model is twofolded, right? One is finding those kind of players who are out there on the fringe, and the second is giving those players an opportunity to succeed.
Yeah.
That's the bigger part.
And Montreal has that ability.
Yeah, and you go out there and you can give them ice time. I mean, what those players need is ice time, right? And that's what happened in Vegas happened largely because of a bunch of players who have been on the outskirts suddenly not worrying about being on the outskirts anymore.
Right.
And that what taking that worry away and giving them confidence is what made the difference there, right? So that's as you play through this out. Russ, so you I'm going to adjust the Flyers Wayne Simmons thing for a second too.
Yeah.
I have heard the opposite, that they aren't shopping him. And, you know, connections with the Flyers are pretty solid. I think that it took a long time to figure out Hexy. I'm starting to figure him out a little bit. I think he actually likes misdirecting people. I think he actually.
Question. I mean, that press conference, I told you when he said he's looking for a right-hand defenseman, everybody sort of assumed that's what he's going to take with one of his two first-round picks. I didn't believe that for a second. But
no, he doesn't. He doesn't ever say what he's actually thinking.
No.
Yeah, but he might need the problem is he might need a right-hand shot defenseman, but if he drafts one, that guy's not going to help him for 2 to 3 years more than likely. So he might need a right-hand defenseman now.
Right. The only name I've heard connected to the Flyers that is a right-hand defenseman, I've heard tons of names over the last couple of days, would be Jacob Trouba. But I don't think that's and you know, a Trouba for Simmons trade. I don't know. I mean, I think that
could actually act.
I mean, it makes some sense, but Peter, what would you think of that?
A Trouba for Simmons trade?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No, they don't need wingers. It just doesn't make sense.
That's the thing, and they already have, and there's another winger who doesn't have a contract, so it's like that's the last thing I would think Winnipeg would want to do.
Yeah.
I think the Flyers love Wayne Simmons more than internally. I mean,
but the thing is, Hextall also doesn't like to give term. And if Simmons, for some reason, says, "Hey, I want 5 years," Hextall's not going to give him 5 years.
Yeah, if Winnipeg is trading Trouba to the Flyers, the first two names out of Cheveldayoff's mouth is either Shane Gostisbehere or Ivan Provorov. If not, then you might as well hang up the phone because it's not friggin' happening.
No, he's not.
Exactly.
He's not. No, that's not. That's those two players.
Then it's not happening.
And unless the negotiations aren't going well with Trouba,
right?
Apparently, they're talking. That was the latest.
They are talking. Negotiations are happening too. I would be more surprised. I would be more surprised if on July 1st we aren't seeing her saying that Simmons has been extended. Like I honestly have heard that there's good things there too.
I think that probably will happen. But here's the end of the day. Maybe Hextall is parsing his words by saying he's not shopping Simmons, but he's getting calls on Wayne Simmons.
Oh, he's getting calls on Simmons, no question about it. Because who wouldn't be, you know? So. I mean because remember, but the other thing that's interesting is they're getting calls, but at the same time, the Flyers are. I'm getting like internal words about how Simmons was so hurt last year, and he still had a pretty good. When you look at how hurt he was all year, numbers aren't terrible at all considering he was an injured player.
Agreed, but you do know the one thing about Hextall is he will always listen to offers, and if there's one that he believes is like over the top great, then I think he'll consider it.
Oh yeah. But he
and what the simple. I mean, I don't know what Simmons' mindset is about staying in Philadelphia, but I'm assuming that he wants to stay there and he likes Philadelphia.
Yeah.
This is, I mean, floating his name out there just encourages him and his agent to say, okay, let's get a deal done because I want to take this off the table. So this is a little bit of a let's put his name out there, let's see what's out there, but it will maybe kickstart negotiations.
Of all the players in that locker room. Wayne Simmons and Shane Gostisbehere are probably the two most important in my opinion. As far as like just keeping that room together in some ways, like Simmons is definitely a majorly important, and Simmons has grown a lot as a player. I mean, because as a leader, I should say, not as a player, as a leader.
Well, that's true, but he could price himself out. He can.
He could, but
Bill Meltzer had some great comments in the comment section in his blog. And it was getting tweeted all over the place. Like it popped up my timeline about 6 times the other day. Good. And he had some great thoughts. And what people were really saying, and he said exactly that if Simmons was out of that room, there would be some upset players. And, you know, like Simmons is going to get a pay raise.
That room is not the greatest, you know, and they need it in terms of. And the greatest thing about Simmons is we'll get off this topic really fast, but is he started off as a kind of a very self-deprecating type character. I remember early in his career, he was like, you know, he could get down on himself really quickly and stuff like that. And he's really turned into a leader. And it's been an interesting thing. So moving on to let's go past that for a second and go into the whole. Is there a player, Russ, that is like, you know, like that is suddenly on, like, you know, with a bullet, like we're seeing like for the draft, like a guy who, like, you know,
Kotkaniemi is that guy. I mean,
okay.
I mean, I still have him, I think, 14th, but that's where I believe he should be. But I think he's rising like crazy because of teams not, you know, the lack of center. So I think he is one.
The chatter right now is the centers that are considered in the top half of the first round, which are Kotkaniemi and Barrett Heighton from Sault Ste. Marie.
Same thing. I mean, I don't think if I was picking, I would pick him in the top 10 either. But
right.
Because of the need of centers, he could get elevated into that.
And for some reason, Zadina's name, and I don't get this, but the chatter out there is that Zadina's stock or his ranking is going down slightly. And honestly, if he falls out of the top 5, whoever gets him at 6 or 7 has got themselves an absolute steal, because when Russ and I saw him at the World Juniors, he was one of the most impressive players there. But I have to say, I'm thinking about bringing a slingshot to the NHL draft with me, because I'm afraid that one of the vultures circling around the Ottawa Senators table is going to try to pick somebody else off. Because that team right now, after the Hoffman deal, with teams circling for Carlson, for Zach Smith, I personally believe on the track they're going down, they should surrender their pick this year, because they're going to be a train wreck. But they're not going to do it. I know that they're not going to do it.
I did write, and I've heard that it's not impossible that Colorado gets Erik Karlsson, and that pick goes back to Ottawa as part of that deal. And that's one thing I've heard that's interesting. The other thing I've heard is there are actually discussions about teams possibly offer sheeting Stone. And I mean, I'm not disputing that you were told that, Act, but the offer sheet is absolutely friggin' dead.
You only do it to mess with someone.
Yeah.
And the thing is, so that's why it makes sense with Ottawa. You can mess with them.
Right.
And the team that would do it, Colorado, because Colorado has a first round pick, has another first round pick, and they've got Ottawa's first round pick. So that first round pick could come back and screw Ottawa again, because Colorado's like, here, take our first round.
The compensation for Stone, if for the salary range that they would have to offer for Stone for Ottawa not to match.
Oh, they're going to match him no matter what. I mean, they're going to match him.
The point is
right? I mean,
that Sakic calls up Dorian and he says, I'm going to do this, whether you like it or not.
That's the thing.
And you either work with it's just leverage. And Dorian's running out of leverage. Yeah. That's the problem.
Ottawa is going. My prediction is we're going to find out in the next 48 hours that they have extended Erik Karlsson in Ottawa. Yeah. That's my prediction. And
there's no way. I'm telling you, if Erik Karlsson extends in Ottawa, he's got a way bigger heart than I give him credit for.
Here's Peter. So
I know. Go ahead. Let me respond, Russ, real quick, and then you go, because I know I'm going to get slammed like all days till Sunday if I don't respond on this. Okay. I don't know that that's going to happen. Okay. This is not a rumor. All right. So I'm not a rumor.
Uh-oh.
There we go. Now he's really going to get
while he's paused.
But here's
go ahead, Russ. Go ahead.
So Joe Sakic, if he were to do that, has to remember when he was offer sheeted by the Rangers, how basically Fox Sports Northwest kicked in the money to keep him in Colorado. Yeah. I think if something like that happened to Ottawa, I think if Karlsson is already, if it's known that he's going to be traded, I think there would be outside forces that would help Ottawa keep Mark Stone there, because they can't lose too many more players. They can't.
I think. Well, first of all, they'd have to get to the cap floor. So I think. But this the only and I'll wait till Eck comes and says what he has to say. But in my opinion, the only way that Erik Karlsson signs with Ottawa is a sign and trade. He signs the 8-year deal. He gets the extra year, and then he gets
Yeah.
traded. I see no way that he stays with that organization with Eugene Melnick as the owner, even if they offer him a top offer, $10, $11 million a year, because you know that Melnick is not going to spend the money other than on him and maybe Stone. I mean, you're regulating or relegating yourself to being in a subpar situation for the bulk of your core of your career. If you re-sign with Ottawa, they're going to go through a 3 or 4 year rebuild right now. That doesn't seem to be any
and that's even if they can get it right. This organization is measuring things in such bizarre ways. They are not doing diligence and managing their HR stuff. It's like there's so much going wrong there in terms of things that just creating the team, I'm suspect that they'll do the right things to even build it. Like, that's why I think there's a really good point that you go and you let Colorado take that first pick, maybe trade Carlson, and really strip it down raw. Like,
go ahead, Russ.
They'll never come back from it if they strip it down raw. But here's the other thing. I think based on everything that's going on now, and with even Gary Bettman coming out yesterday saying that Ottawa's not in cardiac arrest, which we know what happens if the commissioner comes out and mentions the team, says everything's okay, then obviously everything's not okay. And so, that's
you're right. You're right. You're definitely right.
Exactly. Atlanta, it was okay.
But think about it. If they all of a sudden don't use that pick, that leads to now they're really unstable. Instead of, let's say Zadina's on the board and they take him and they put him right in the lineup, that's something that fans can rally behind. I don't think they could even as an organization not take that pick, because otherwise I think they're going to continue to get pounded.
Yeah, and I think Ottawa. I mean, I don't think we talked about it. This is the first chance we had to talk about the Hoffman deal. I think Dorian had egg on his face, and it was very public after that it went down, simply because San Jose flips Hoffman to Florida and gets more. And then Dale Talon comes out after the fact and says, well, they wanted more from us than we ended up giving to San Jose. So he made Dorian look really bad on that deal. And then that's the thing. Dorian has got so many situations right now with Stone, with Carlson, with the draft pick, with Zach Smith and Bobby Ryan. I mean, it's just too much. It really is.
It's a lot, but I think, look, when you're dealing with Doug Wilson and Dale Talon, those are two sharks of the GMs.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the kind of stuff that's going to happen. So I think it happened to Pierre Dorian, but I think it could happen to a lot of other GMs too.
Sure.
Yeah, but Dorian set himself up, right? Like, I'm not going to trade in the division.
No,
I'm so sorry, guys.
Finish up your point about Carlson.
Thank you. I apologize. So I do not. This is not information on Carlson. I'm going to be talking to people this morning, and I'm going to write about how I think they need to do this in the next 24 hours. I think it would just, if I'm there, I'm saying we got to take control of this damn situation. Like you can't be always dealing to make a deal. If I've learned nothing from, no, I'm not going to say his name, to make a deal, you cannot be dealing from a position of weakness. Okay. And right now, Ottawa is dealing from positions of weakness all over the map. And that's what happened with Hoffman. That's what could potentially happen with Carlson unless they get in front of it. And getting in front of it means making a statement. That doesn't mean you can't even trade him after that, but you have to make a statement, and you have to get it. You have to get.
But the only problem with that, Eck, is why would Erik Karlsson give them the leverage back? He's not going to do that
because Erik Karlsson is not. He is not this. He's not this. I mean, of course, he's a businessman. They're all businessmen, but Karlsson is more of a caring type guy. He is not. Karlsson does not like the fact that the Ottawa Senators are being put through the mud now either. And if he could come out and make a statement saying, listen, I could have gotten another $1 million a year elsewhere, but I want to show everybody out there that I believe in this team. I believe in my teammates. I'm sticking around, and we're going to make something happen. And that's the only way Ottawa can salvage anything right now.
Well, there's a story out there, and I can't really get to the bottom of whose story it is because with some of these websites, they borrow so much information that you can't figure it out. But there is a story out there that basically says Carlson could be a target of the Rangers. Here's what I'll tell you about that.
Yep.
If the Rangers do that, it would be the biggest mistake because it would be sending that mixed message to the fans like, hey, what are you doing? You said you were doing this. You're not doing this.
Right.
As far as retool, rebuild. And B, the last thing they need to do is lock into a deal, a long-term deal with a defenseman who could go down at 3-4 years into it. They've had so many guys have that happen to. They can't afford to have that happen again.
And the one thing that we learned from the Hoffman deal, based on what Talon said afterward, is that the Atlantic Division tax is in effect. Yeah. They did not want to trade him to Florida. Just so if the Maple Leafs were interested in Erik Karlsson, it would cost more for them to make a trade for him than any other team in the league. Which, I mean, honestly, I think it's ridiculous, but I understand it from their point of view because, to Ottawa, the Maple Leafs are the devil incarnate. But I think that you can't approach it that way, but they are.
No, I think that I don't think he's getting traded at the draft. Okay, I don't think that's gonna. I don't know, but I don't think so. I don't think because Ottawa doesn't need draft picks back. They need players.
Say it again, Russ.
There's going to be big offers, and even though Pierre Dorian said he won't trade him at the draft, I don't believe GMs, so I don't believe that that's a certainty. I think the last day, even the last hours leading up to the draft, he's going to get some big offers for Erik Karlsson, and if there's the right one there, I think I think there's a chance.
No, you're right. I mean, he's already gotten some big offers, and I've heard that, and you're right. He's going to get those offers, but those offers aren't going anywhere because the kind of things that he wants aren't. They need 2 or 3 players that can jump into their lineup right now. Is what I was told. And, so the draft, unless you're talking about one of the top 3 picks or for whatever, is not even, even really going to help you there. I mean, so you have to really, I mean, with the exception of next year's Colorado pick, which is usually important to them if they can get that pick back, that essentially, I don't know why Colorado would even trade that pick back. I think Karlsson is a disaster no matter what happens because of the he's a great player, but I think he's diminishing, and I think you're signing to him into a giant contract when he's diminishing.
Well, hang on. Here's the thing, as you said, if Ottawa really does want 2 or 3 players back who can step in, then you really have to ask them, what are you trying to do? You've got problems everywhere. And now you think trading Erik Karlsson is the solution to icing a roster? That's the wrong way of looking at this. That's a bad idea.
Can I ask another question to you guys? And then we're going to get back right to the draft real quickly. And then we're going to have to get out of here. What we're going to, and I'll talk about I'm going to try to do another podcast later today with either some of you guys if you can or none. But here's or just myself taking questions. We'll be doing more throughout the day and tomorrow. But somebody said to me the other day that Guy Boucher should be fired for what happened in Ottawa.
No.
Peter?
Not a chance. I mean, I know that the blueprint on Guy Boucher is that he gets the most out of a team early in his tenure and then he wears on them. But this is not a disaster of his making.
But for the locker room, for not handling the locker room thing.
There's some things a coach can't control.
Exactly.
Well, if you guys didn't get a chance yesterday to see the podcast, it was a good one. Not just because you guys weren't there. It was a good one because of
my arm is hurting.
That we had Tom Laidlaw on, who talked a lot about these kind of things that happen in locker rooms all the time. It's worth watching. You really get a good perception and a lot of good Islander stuff yesterday. But okay, so if there's a player, every year, Russ, I'm sitting there and I hear Bob McKenzie or Pierre Maguire saying, "Wow, can't believe how far that guy slipped," and when we get these awful pictures of him sitting next to his girlfriend, waiting to go out there. Is there a guy that's the Chikrin of this draft? Is there a player like that?
Darren Noel.
Okay, that's what you think?
Yep.
And why is that, do you think?
Because I think if you really look at him, while he is a power forward and he's a great kid, he gets a lot of these goals at the level he's at. His goal level is very high.
Yeah.
I don't know if his skill level is high enough that he's going to get those same goals at the NHL level.
Interesting. All right. And the biggest shocker, what do you think? 'Cause I'm gonna track this down, and when it happens, I'm gonna tweet out Russ said this.
No, if Kotkaniemi goes third, I mean, that's a big shock.
But it's not so much right now because
I think the biggest shock will be if Zadina goes past number 5.
Yeah,
Because I think he's he's one of the top 3, top 4 players in this draft, and if he drops under 5, then I think a lot of GMs are being short-sighted.
Okay, very good.
Can I ask one thing quickly to Peter, and then we can go. Peter, a rumor coming out of Vancouver from Rick Dollawall from Sportsnet said that the Canucks are shopping Chris Tanev. Now, it can't be for money because they've got boatloads of cap space with the Sedins retiring. I have a feeling it has to do with they signed Gabranson, and they have young defense that they're going to bring up, and they want to sign guys like Stetcher and Hutton maybe to long-term deals. It also has to do with the fact I think that he lost 70 games in the last couple of years to injury. I mean, I think he's still a good defenseman, and I think this is a guy that has been talked about evolving Toronto the last couple of years. What do you think?
He's got 2 years left of 4.45. Okay, as a cap hit. He's 28.
Yep.
This is the kind of guy, because of the salary stability that he's going to have, that Toronto should look at until they can figure out what the answer is. And I know the injuries are there, but here's the thing. Look at Vancouver's defense. This is who they have. Edler, Tanev, Goodbranson, Delzato, Hutton, Biega, Pouliot, and Stetcher. Tanev's got to be all things for all people at this point.
I know, and
he lies in the lane. He'll do anything. He's okay. Let's get some cliches going. He's a heart and soul guy. He's fearless. He plays with grit. Throw whatever cliche you want. He's doing it because he's the only one who can.
Yeah,
and that's how he plays. Give him a little support. Give him some forwards. Give him a proper usage, because that's the other thing, right? Usage matters. And you might not lose 30 games a year on him. You may give him a proper structure around that. He doesn't have to be this flailing guy trying to do everything for everyone. And you might get a hell of a bargain out of him for the last 2 years of his deal at 4.45.
Here's the last thing, and this is very telling. The Flyers extended Brandon Manning for 2 years. That's very telling to me.
No, that is
expansion
telling.
Draft.
Not expansion draft. No. I don't think it's that at all. I think it just shows that the injuries that have occurred in the Flyers organization with the question marks meant that he has to give Manning 2 years. I don't think he would have previously ever given Manning 2 years. Not that he's bad. He would have.
Not that he's bad. And I think that I have questions about. We won't get into that, but I have questions. I think Hextall and I've always thought Hextall and Hackstall are on different pages on Brandon Manning too. But that, for what it's worth, I think, and that's a kind of interesting thing. So, that's it, guys. But what I want to make sure you guys do, and this is vitally important, is follow Russ on Twitter at Sportsology.
Amen to that.
I mean, and we got 160 people watching this right now. We've got people all over the place. And it's not even a normal time of the podcast. You guys if you're watching now, you just hopped on probably at the last second. Follow Russ at Sportsology. You won't be, and go to sportsology.com for all kinds of stuff. And if that's the only other website you're allowed to visit besides Hockey Buzz, but go to Sportsology. Russ, will you be on XM? Will you be doing the XM thing?
Yeah. So I'll be doing that too on draft day.
I guess it's not as important to follow me at Mike and Buffalo.
Wait a second, Mike. No, it's not. But we'll talk about that in a second. But
Sportsology is I've got about 12 to 14 good draft features on players.
Yeah, I mean it's astonishing.
You have good stuff,
and it is the best kept secret in hockey, especially at the draft. You've got to go to sportsology.com. And follow Russ at Sportsology. Follow him on the other thing that's really fun to do. Follow Russ on Instagram.
How was that restaurant last night, Russ?
It was really good. Papacitas is really good.
Oh yeah, the Russ is he had there are a lot of pictures of dogs.
A lot of pictures of 30 Seconds to Mars.
And there's pictures of pictures that So the other thing is this: we keep an eye on Mike. You can follow Mike at Mike in Buffalo.
Keep an eye on him.
And then of course Peter is at Teddy. You can check all this stuff out. It's all in their blogs. You can find out where they are, and definitely follow them throughout the day and through the next week, because we are I told my wife this morning, and I'm not one for hyperbole and this kind of thing. I try to keep it low key because the family doesn't need to see me like run around like an idiot. But I told her, like, literally, I think these next 10 days are as important as any 10 days have ever been to Hockey Buzz, in terms of what's happening here, in terms of so many trades happening, so many things happening. So if you can spread the word about Hockey Buzz, we really appreciate it. If you can follow me, you can follow me on Twitter at Eklund. You can follow Hockey Buzz on Twitter. Another little fun thing to do, find Hockey Buzz on Facebook. So if you go to my blog, look for Hockey Buzz on Facebook, because I'm going to be putting little Facebook Live things up when a trade happens, something like that, just to sort of give my 2 cents quickly. There's going to be so much happening, and then there might be something fun around the draft. So I honestly couldn't be more excited about what's going on, and we have such great writers out there. Everybody's kicking it. We have our Ottawa writer, our new Ottawa writer Trevor, is doing an amazing job, and Ottawa is such an important team. BD Galliff, who we had on yesterday with the Islanders, amazing job. The Islanders are usually an important team, so there's never been a better time to come and visit us. The rumor tracker, I'm getting emails every second about that, when that's going to go up. I gotta
go.
Go ahead. Thanks, Russ. Thanks so much. Appreciate it. When the rumor tracker goes up, I'm not positive yet. We have so much stuff going on, and it's a moving target. So I know it's not going up yet, but it might go on by tonight. It'll definitely be up tomorrow. And the rumor tracker is fun because it doesn't just track rumors that are on Hockey Buzz. We'll put up rumors that are anywhere. So it's sort of like a running feed for you of following all the, instead of having to follow all the right people on Twitter, all the right things here, we have a whole staff of people that are updating the rumor tracker all the time. And some of them are sitting here in this room right now. So we're going to be doing that, and just have fun. I mean, this is a great time of year. I am very jealous that you guys can sit back, that as a fan right now, that can sit back and just watch this and enjoy it, because it's a soap opera. From my perspective, I've tripled my heart, my blood pressure medicine, so to try to get through this. So if I pass out at any point, but do check back. I think we're gonna have some fun things. Remember, without the buzz, it is just hockey, and we'll talk to you soon.